Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juliana Ojinnaka, and I'm running for the UCU VP election on UCU Left platform. I chair the Black Members Standing Committee, and I'm also the Vice Chair of the Women's Members Standing Committee. I am actively involved in the UCU at branch and regional level. I am committed to building UCU as a fighting, democratic, and effective union. I believe democracy is essential, not an optional extra. We must be democratic in the way we run our industrial disputes, ensuring our negotiators are regularly in touch with members. I support elected strike committees. Democracy and active participation of members give us the best chance of running industrial disputes. The issues that the marketization of our education sector has thrown up, such as casualization, excessive workloads, and declining mental health, affect all categories of staff within our union, and it is important that we unite together to fight back. Our members reacted professionally when called to teach online at the peak of the COVID pandemics. They continue to teach across the sectors at a great mental and physical sacrifice. Many branches negotiated actively around risk assessment for most vulnerable members and those with underlying health conditions, maximizing the use of ventilation in enclosed areas, especially in the classrooms. We need to support those with long COVID and the fight for it to be recognized as a disability to be protected under the provision of the Equality Act. Members with long COVID are going to need a lot of support, including phased return to work. We need to support the rights of members to refuse to work in unsafe conditions. We have to recognize that pollution of the environment makes the risk of more pandemics likely. Supporting health and safety at work and tackling the climate emergency are linked issues. Our employers in HE cashed in on fees during the COVID period from overseas students, whilst at the same time cutting jobs. Now that the sessions are face-to-face, some universities don't have large enough lecture halls to teach in. We still need to be vigilant and campaign to prevent more deaths from COVID. In terms of health and safety, we need to make sure that we have well-trained health and safety representatives at our branch levels to put pressure on management to ensure regular consultation with members are carried out. We must be prepared to take legal action if our employers break the law and fail to protect our members. UCU must support members with health and safety issues. We need to value our health and safety representatives and recruit more of them. We should be prepared to ballot for industrial action around health and safety. If need be, we should evoke Section 44 like the NEU successfully did last January when the government refused to close schools to allow teachers to teach online. Mental health and stress is important, and we must fight the causes of mental illness and stress and not just deal with the symptoms. We should tackle those issues in the workplace which lead to stress and poor mental health. These include excessive workloads, job insecurity, bullying, discrimination, increased managerialism, erosion of autonomy, exacerbated by falling pay and inequality. HR departments offer us mindfulness sessions and constant propaganda about well-being rather than addressing the root causes. Mental health have been used against staff in terms of surveillance, control, and possibly expulsion and victim blaming. The HE sector's current industrial action in the Four Fights campaign is tackling some of these very issues head-on. And we also need an end to excessive lessons in inspections. We need jobs which are worth doing until retirement age, not jobs which make people sick. Tackling these issues in the workplace will reduce stress and increase well-being. We should work with the TUC to demand better funding for mental health services. Poor mental health is on the increase amongst our students as well. These are exacerbated by the lockdown and the pandemic. There is an increase in the suicide rate amongst the 16 to 24-year-olds. Mental well-being is important for both ourselves and our students. UCU is more than just lecturers. It's only part of the work UCU members do. They do research, management, administration, work in computing services, libraries, learning centers, careers, as well as many other areas. These are essential roles which support the post-16 education in many ways. Many of these staffs are women, and they are disproportionately from BAME backgrounds and are the lowest paid. It is the cutbacks in these areas that have led to the increase in lecturers' workload. We do need to publicize all the areas of work members are involved in. All the work our members do should be valued and properly rewarded. A lot of academic-related staff are stuck in their grades with no room for progression. They are often targeted for downgrading in restructures that happens on a regular basis. We must become more knowledgeable about what their needs are and how to negotiate better terms and conditions for them at all levels of the union. We need special training for our reps around their particular needs and concerns. We currently have a national president who is from an academic-related role, and this is a positive reminder of the diversity and potential strength of our union. And I'll be very happy to work with her if elected. In terms of prison and adult education, prison education is more than any other sector is impacted upon by the marketization and managerialism, which has resulted in overcrowding, government cuts, resulting in excessive workload coupled with the pandemic. These are causing a lot of stress for our members. Provision for prison education is motivated by funding and no longer by meaningful education. Digital poverty and lack of funding has put our members at risk during the pandemic period and still is doing so. Prison education is different from any other education facility. For prison education staff, regular changes in employers adds unnecessarily to the pressure of the job. It needs to be funded in the same way as other educational provisions. Members need to be better supported in prison education. Prison education is essential for the rehabilitation of offenders and for our community. In terms of adult education, this sector has been underfunded for a very long time. And this has resulted in the reduction of accessibility for all marginalized groups into education, and thereby curtailing their need for social mobility. Cuts in Sure Start meant that working class women had very limited childcare facilities, which hampered women's ability to participate in education and progress in society. Adult education has had its budget cut by 50% in the last 10 years. Over 1 million student places have gone. This is one of the biggest scandals in our education history. If elected, I will work with those in the adult education sector to ensure that this is a high priority for UCU. Both these sectors, prison and adult education, need better funding and job security. We need to value these areas of education. Adult education can add greatly to the quality of life of the population. We need to give more respect for the work done by these groups of educators. In terms of support for the equality strands in the union, As a Black woman, I have been involved in struggles against racism and sexism. I am committed to supporting all strands of equality agenda. As an FE lecturer, I have been involved in teaching and working and teaching working class students on access to higher education and A-level courses. I know that education can be life-changing and a vehicle for social transformation. This background convinces me that we need to walk the talk when we say equality is at the heart of the union. We must do more to champion issues of concern to all equality strands. In the case of the Women's Standing Committee, issues of childcare was exemplified in the pandemics, where we see women carrying the disproportionate responsibility for childcare. Another issue is sexual violence, which disproportionately impacts on women and girls in education and the wider society. For our Black members, there is a vast array of issues, including race pay gap, precarious contracts, racist bullying, harassment and microaggression, and lack of promotion in their workplaces. Our disabled members are faced with issues of reasonable adjustment, which needs to be handled collectively with strong union backing. The LGBTQ+ members can face a very hostile work environment, especially in HE, where huge numbers have considered leaving their profession. This is a travesty. We need to push our management in our workplaces to monitor the rate of hate crime against the LGBTQ members in our institutions. We need to work together as the equality strands. We must look at factors that unite us rather than divide us. We need to have a regular national equalities chair meeting to look at how we might effectively reflect the intersectionality of our equality strands and support each other in these times of pandemic and economic crisis. We can educate each other on issues of concerns to us. Okay, so this is another big area, recruitment and organization of casualized staff. Casualized workers will join a union when they see that our union is taking up their issues. We must continue the collective bargaining work we do to reverse casualization. This is both at local level and UK-wide. In terms of the 4 fights dispute in higher education, where job security is one of the important demands, this cause has to be central. UCU has long had robust structures for supporting casualized staff, including an annual conference for members on casualized contracts, an anti-casualization committee, and reserved seats on the NEC. We must encourage members and branches to have an anti-casualization representative on the branch committees. We need to keep this issue of casualization central in all our campaigns. If you're a member of UCU and your contract is going to end in a few months' time, then this is the number one issue for you. And it needs to be for the whole of the union too. In HE, the funding model for research is one whereby academics bid for short-term funds for research projects on which they then employ research staff. This model has casualization of staff built into it. So when the grant ends, the research is made redundant. This is not only bad for the welfare and dignity of our brilliant university researchers, but it's also bad for research itself. The union must continue to use its voice to push for wholesale change in how university research is funded. We must integrate this issue into all of our campaigns. If we can't reduce the amount of casualization in all sectors, then we cannot bring about more equal post-16 sector. This is why I am proud of our colleagues in HE who have ensured that it is that this whole issue of casualization is at the forefront of the Four Fights campaign that they are now conducting. This issue is not just for those on casualized contracts, but for all of us. In terms of the teachers' pension scheme, members are right to be worried about the value of their pensions and security in retirement. We must resist any detriment if the government makes any proposals to cut the value of pensions, either by changing the accrual rate or the indexation rate. We must keep the teacher's pension as defined pension. One danger we need to be aware of for the future of teachers' pension scheme is that some schools, such as academies, may decide to remove their staff from teachers' pension and put them in private schemes. The strength of a teachers' pension scheme depends upon the government being prepared to meet its obligations and on having as many teachers as possible in the scheme. At the moment, school teachers, FE lecturers, and most post-92 academic staff are in teachers' pension scheme. We must oppose any moves to take any groups out of the teachers' pension scheme, since this will weaken the scheme. As a teachers' pension scheme member, I send my solidarity to members in the USS taking action to defend their pensions. Decent pensions are a gain for the organized labor movement, which we must defend. In summary, then, I am championing the fight for trade unionism. I believe we should focus more on the positive lessons from disputes we have won so far, such as the ones in Liverpool and other places. There are examples of how unions can fight and win. Getting active in the union is good for our mental health and reduces stress. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I will uphold the constitution of the union. As an officer, I will encourage all members to participate in UCU's democratic process. I will defend the sovereignty of the annual congress and sector conferences. We should be committed to building UCU as a fighting, democratic, and effective trade union. And together we can win our fights. Please make sure you use your vote. It is your democratic right. Thank you very much.